It was just past dawn when the convoy of black SUVs rolled up to the glass-towered skyline of Tribeca, their tinted windows hiding the intensity of what was about to unfold. Within minutes, federal agents in plain clothes moved with precision up the service elevator of the penthouse residence belonging to none other than Sean Diddy Combs. The city below was still half asleep, unaware that something seismic was being set in motion above their heads. On the top floor, the silence shattered with a command. "FBI, open up." A few seconds later, a battering ram did the rest. Inside, Diddy's security team stood stunned. The lavish interior, all polished marble and velvet, buzzed with tension as agents swept through rooms methodically. There was no violence, no shouting, just a calculated search, as if they knew exactly what they were looking for. Agent Sarah Lennox watched it all from behind her mirrored aviators. Young, but already making a name in the bureau, she was handpicked for this particular assignment, not for her rank but for her discretion and dogged instincts. The mission was top secret, so tightly wound that even some high-ranking officials had been left in the dark. The file read only, Operation Sapphire Echo. She didn't flinch as drawers were emptied, safes cracked, digital servers yanked from custom cabinets. But then came the whisper from one of the tech agents. "Ma'am, you're going to want to see this." Inside a compartment embedded into the back of a bookshelf, hidden behind a false wall, was a matte black biometric safe. It took 2 hours and a direct call to Langley. But when it finally clicked open, the room held its breath. There were no diamonds, no wads of cash. Just a handful of micro-cassette tapes, analog. Unusual for a man like Diddy, known for living on the bleeding edge of technology. Each tape had a name written in block letters with a red wax seal. Trump, DiCaprio, P. Diddy meetings, and one marked only with a single word, Nightfall. "Why tapes?" Lennox asked aloud, not expecting an answer. But the tech glanced up. "Tapes are hard to track. No metadata, no cloud. If you wanted to hide something, this is how you'd do it." The implications sank like lead. These weren't old demos or personal memos. These tapes were part of something much deeper, something someone went to great lengths to hide, and someone else had gone to equal lengths to find. Before we go deeper, make sure to hit that subscribe button. These are real stories that unravel power, fame, and secrecy, stories they don't want you to know. Back at HQ, in a secure room lit only by screens and the hum of filtered air, the tapes were played, one by one, methodically digitized and scrubbed for clarity. On one, a voice unmistakably like Donald Trump's boomed, "We handle the foundation first. DiCaprio's people are on board." No names, no wires. Another tape, quieter but crystal clear, had a voice eerily similar to Leonardo DiCaprio's. "The optics have to be clean. We say it's climate, and we mean it. But we don't need Washington breathing down our necks." And then there was Diddy, in his usual confident tone. "Keep it offshore, Cayman's clean." Everybody walks away happy. Agent Lennox leaned back, chills racing down her spine. This wasn't just celebrity gossip. This was potential evidence of a shadow network, one that blended entertainment, politics, and offshore manipulation into something no one was prepared to confront. And it was just the beginning. The room was silent except for the low hum of the tape machine and the frantic tapping of Agent Lennox's fingers on her notepad. She had reviewed the recordings 3 times already, each playback tightening the knot in her chest. These weren't cryptic conversations or offhand remarks. They were explicit, deliberate, proof of something carefully orchestrated. And still, no one at the bureau seemed eager to escalate. Within hours, whispers had made their way up the chain of command. Lennox was summoned for a closed-door meeting. The deputy director was there, flanked by 2 grim-faced legal advisors. "You're to lock those tapes away," he said. "Chain of custody, no leaks, no press, and no further analysis unless directly authorized." "But sir, there's evidence of—" "Agent Lennox," he cut her off sharply. "This is sensitive. You've done your job. Let it go." Let it go. The words echoed in her mind as she stepped out of the room, but the weight of what she'd heard wouldn't let her sleep, and she wasn't alone. Late that night, in a nondescript diner on the edge of DC, she met with Max Greer, a journalist from an independent news outlet known for breaking untouchable stories. Max was one of the few people she trusted, and even he was wary. "You're telling me there are tapes, real ones, of Trump, DiCaprio, and Diddy discussing what exactly?" "A shell foundation," she said. "A cover for moving money offshore, influence operations, maybe even campaign funneling." Max sipped his coffee, his jaw tightening. If this is true, it could shake two governments. But if you're wrong... "I'm not." She slid a thumb drive across the table. "Redacted sample, 15 seconds, that's all you get for now." Within 24 hours, the snippet had leaked online. The audio was fuzzy, but the voices were too familiar to dismiss. Forums exploded. Conspiracy theorists called it the Cayman Triangle. Talk shows demanded answers. The White House issued a vague statement. The president has no knowledge of these alleged meetings. DiCaprio's team responded with a simple, chilling line, "No comment." But Lennox knew this was bigger than just the leak. She dug deeper, following the leads backward to a seemingly unrelated gala held in the Hamptons in the summer of 2019. Attended by the global elite, it had been a fundraiser for environmental causes. Champagne flowed, celebrities posed. But away from the cameras, inside a secluded beachside villa, a different meeting took place, one not listed on any agenda. That's where, according to her new source, the real deal went down. The source was a former caterer, now under witness protection, who remembered Diddy arriving by helicopter. Trump, still in office, appeared briefly under private security. DiCaprio stayed the longest, discussing foundation architecture and financial filters with a Swiss banker whose name Lennox hadn't yet confirmed. "They spoke in hushed tones," the witness said, "but I caught enough to know they weren't planning a charity event." Each layer Lennox peeled back revealed more rot beneath the surface, and yet the bureau tightened around her. Files disappeared from her database. Her badge was flagged in the internal system. She was being boxed in. Still, she pushed forward. Because somewhere between fame and power, truth had been twisted into leverage, and those tapes were just the surface of a plan far more complex and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. And someone, somewhere, was already trying to make sure it never came to light. Within days of the leak, the media storm intensified beyond control. Hashtags dominated social feeds. News anchors stumbled through breaking bulletins. Unconfirmed recordings involving President Trump, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Sean "Diddy" Combs. The public was ravenous. The world was watching. Trump was the first to respond publicly. At a rally in Ohio, he dismissed the scandal with theatrical contempt. "Another fake story, folks. I don't know what these people are talking about. DiCaprio? Really? Never met the guy in my life." The crowd laughed, but his advisors didn't. They were already scrambling behind closed doors. DiCaprio's camp, by contrast, went completely silent. No tweets, no interviews, not even a denial. Just an eerie vacuum where his voice used to be. Entertainment insiders whispered about cancelled appearances and a sudden indefinite retreat to a private island in the Pacific. But it was the evidence, cold hard metadata, that started tearing through the denial. One of the FBI's forensics teams, working independently and quietly, managed to extract location data from a preserved digital calendar file linked to the recordings. Dates and timestamps matched all three men's travel records. In one overlapping window, all three had been logged by private jet manifests, security detail logs, and GPS pings at a secluded estate in the Cayman Islands. The same week, the Nightfall tape had been labeled. That was no coincidence. And it was around this time that Lennox received a cryptic message through an encrypted Dropbox. "You're close. But you're not alone." Attached was a name she hadn't seen in years, Maya Trujillo. Maya had once been one of the CIA's most promising field agents, brilliant, fearless, but forced into retirement after an unauthorized leak nearly burned a foreign alliance. Since then, she'd vanished into the digital shadows, until now. They met in a parking garage beneath a shuttered shopping mall in Maryland. Maya wore no makeup, no expression, just a black hoodie and the aura of someone who'd been hunted more than once. "You found the tapes?" she asked. "I found some of them," Lennox replied, "but someone doesn't want them heard." Maya's eyes hardened. "Of course not. Those tapes are just part of it. Diddy's collection was legendary in the circles that mattered. He didn't just record meetings. He archived leverage, voices, secrets, threats, anything that could protect him if everything went south." Lennox felt the breath catch in her throat. "So, this is bigger than offshore accounts?" Maya nodded. "Much bigger. You ever hear of the Celebrity Black Book?" Lennox shook her head. "It's a rumor until you see it. A list of who owes what, who fears who. Compiled by handlers, managers, politicians. Used by billionaires to control the narrative. Think Epstein's list, but scarier. Because these aren't crimes of lust. These are crimes of power." As Maya pulled out a flash drive and slid it into Lennox's hand, she added, "You're already in their sights. They'll try to discredit you, isolate you, maybe worse. But if you want to blow this open, this is your key." That night, back in her apartment, Lennox hesitated before opening the file. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away. But the truth had already cracked the surface, and it was her job now to shatter it completely. She clicked open. A second recording began to play, one she hadn't heard before. It wasn't just money or policy. It was strategy. Her voice, unmistakably DiCaprio's, whispered, "We reshape the story, or the story reshapes us. Use the algorithm. Feed the fire." The tone wasn't nervous. It was calculated, planned, cold. And that's when Lennox knew this wasn't just a conspiracy. It was a campaign. The digital recording echoed in her ears long after it ended. Lennox stared at the wall, mind racing. This wasn't a string of accidental meetings or drunken brags caught on tape. It was a strategy, engineered narratives, psychological manipulation, real-time influence ops. DiCaprio, Trump, Diddy. They weren't just players in some blackmail roulette. They were architects of perception, and someone was still running the game. The next morning, Lennox found her bureau credentials disabled. Her apartment swept, her personal phone deactivated. The message was loud and clear: she was out, or worse, targeted. But they underestimated her resolve. She didn't need the FBI's permission anymore. She was going rogue. With Maya's help, Lennox traced a trail of encrypted emails and financial backchannels that led her to an old nightclub in Baltimore, long since shut down. The building had belonged to one of Diddy's former associates, a fixer named Royce Bennett, who disappeared mysteriously 5 years prior. Behind a crumbling DJ booth and beneath a warped tile in the back room, she found what she was looking for: a hardened case bolted into the floor. Inside was a heat-damaged laptop, an encrypted thumb drive, and dozens of old film reels, each marked with cryptic initials and symbols. It took Maya's software, custom-coded during her agency days, to unlock the drive. What they uncovered went beyond anything either had imagined. There were video files, hidden camera footage from private jets, lavish parties, offshore retreats. And more audio. Conversations between celebrities, senators, media executives, tech moguls. They weren't talking art or policy. They were negotiating attention, how to craft scandal, drive controversy, suppress dissent, all monetized, all gamed. And threaded through it all was a single symbol, a black spiral. It appeared in documents watermarked on video files, even stitched into a designer jacket in one clip. Maya recognized it instantly. "That's the Vireo Group," she said, her voice cold. "They're the Ghost Network, a private intelligence firm that specializes in narrative architecture. If they're involved, this goes even deeper." One file stood out, labeled Kingmaker Final. It showed a meeting in the Caymans, drone footage from above. Diddy, Trump, DiCaprio, and two unidentified men stood around a table with dossiers and a projection screen. The audio was grainy, but a few phrases came through: election engineering, algorithm partners confirmed, social storm triggers preloaded. Lennox's stomach turned. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. Cultural, political, informational. They weren't chasing influence, they were creating it. She copied everything onto a fresh drive and packed a go bag. Maya insisted she use an abandoned cabin upstate as a safe house for the night. but safety was a mirage. Around 2:13 a.m., Lennox woke to the smell of smoke. The cabin glowed orange at the edges. The fire had been set fast and precise. She barely escaped with the drive and her life. Everything else gone. Shaking, coughing, she stumbled through the woods until she found an old payphone outside a rural diner. "Maya," she rasped, dialing a memorized number. "They found me." "I know," Maya replied, grim. "They hit my signal too. We're out of time." Lennox tightened her grip on the drive. "Then we go public. No more filters, no redactions, full exposure." Maya hesitated. "You sure you're ready for that storm? There's no storm big enough to bury this now." Somewhere in DC, monitors lit up with motion alerts. Someone was watching, but Lennox had crossed the point of no return. She was no longer just chasing the truth. She was the truth. By dawn, the plan was set. Agent Lennox, once a silent cog in a bureaucratic machine, now stood as the sole custodian of a truth too dangerous to remain hidden. With Maya coordinating a secure satellite uplink, they activated the contingency protocol, a clandestine broadcast channel created years ago for whistleblower emergencies. It had never been used. Until now. At 6 a.m. EST, the servers went live. No flashy graphics. No music, just audio and raw footage. For the first time, the world heard the unmistakable voices of Sean Diddy Combs, Donald Trump, and Leonardo DiCaprio, discussing shadow finances, offshore manipulation, and media steering strategies. Then came the files, documents signed with code names and backroom timestamps. Video clips showed men in tailored suits orchestrating the unseen gears of influence, deciding which narratives would rise and which would vanish. It spread like wildfire. News outlets scrambled to verify the source, but the content was too specific, too consistent to deny. Within hours, congressional hearings were announced. International leaders demanded explanations. The FBI issued a public statement acknowledging an unauthorized breach of classified materials, but refused to confirm or deny the authenticity of the recordings. Trump's legal team launched an immediate counteroffensive, claiming deepfake technology and foreign interference. "Witch Hunt 3.0, Trump tweeted, but the voice prints were analyzed by independent labs within hours. Results: 98.9% match, authentic. Leonardo DiCaprio received a subpoena before the day was out. His lawyer issued a brief statement. Mr. DiCaprio will cooperate fully, but he was not seen in public. Paparazzi staked out his known residences. Nothing. Diddy was nowhere to be found. His social accounts went dark. His private jet landed in Iceland, but no one disembarked. Rumors flew. Some said he cut a deal with the NSA. Others claimed he boarded a ship heading into Arctic waters under diplomatic cloak. But none of them mattered to Lennox anymore. The drive had done its job. She didn't wait for applause or vindication. With Maya's help, she slipped into a shadow world, trading her name for encrypted signatures and burner phones. Her face was replaced in every system by redacted placeholders. She became a ghost, but her voice echoed louder than ever. Online forums called her the Archer, a symbol of retribution, of truth over power. And while governments reeled and influencers scrambled to reshape their narratives, the real war had just begun. One fought not in battlefields or boardrooms, but in feeds and timelines, in belief and doubt. Weeks later, a quiet podcast episode surfaced on an anonymous server. It was Lennox. "You've heard their voices, now hear mine." Power doesn't hide in darkness anymore. It wears diamonds and gives speeches. But if we're willing to listen, to ask, to see, we can rip the veil down, one secret at a time. Her words spread like wildfire, cut into TikToks, quoted in street murals, even printed on protest banners. The spiral symbol of the Vario group began appearing everywhere, spray-painted with a red slash through it, a new emblem of resistance, a war between architects of influence and those brave enough to unravel them. And while Lennox remained hidden, her impact surged. She wasn't chasing headlines, she was rewriting history. If this truth shocked you, imagine what's still hidden. Subscribe now and click on the next video to uncover more secrets waiting in the shadows.